Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss right transaction issues in Business Central. I'm sharing my screen and want to describe the problem. Let's imagine we have some sales order. So we click on release and we have to input specific boxes quantity. So general approach is the following. We have sales lines, which is item type. And if there is item type detected on the sales lines, we have to specify quantity of boxes to package this item. So user has to fill in quantity of boxes, clicks on OK, and new sales line is created with this quantity of boxes, and sales order is released. So that's how it works at the moment. Okay, and then we have another sales order which has an issue. Let's see. So user reported that there is a problem here. They have an error on release. So the same situation, we have items here, but we click on release and we get this error. Transaction is stopped. Contact administrator for assistance. I will try to show you how I usually fix these issues. What is the way to resolve it? So first of all, let's try to debug and see what happens here. Let's trigger debug session. I open the same sales order. Yeah, we can see that lines are the same. Click on release. So for this one, we also expect to get this window, to get this dialog to enter boxes. But we can see that it cannot be run here. So it stops on the moment when it tries to run item boxes dialog. Okay, so let's see on what step it happens. So it happens on release sales document code on before release. So we have event subscriber on before release. It triggers this function, and here what we can see. So this particular function, it only searches for the item. So if there are no items, it will not trigger this dialog and will not execute this window. It will not run it. So, but we can see that on this step, we don't see any right transaction was triggered. So that's not this place. If we check level up, several levels before, we can also see that there is no right transaction here and here and so on. So how do we usually find that right transaction was triggered? We can search for modify, for insert, and for delete, maybe for a name. In this case, we don't see it on the surface, but let's add a breakpoint here and debug it once more. Run it again and see what happens from the very beginning of the release process. So we can see into on before release. We can see that there is one subscriber which is standard Microsoft subscriber. And here we can see, yeah, this is another subscriber on before release, which is executed before our dialog page. And what it does, it takes sell to customer number, gets the customer and checks if original quantity mandatory field is true or not. If it is true, and it is indeed true, it is yes, it searches for sellers lines where original quantity is 0 and updates original quantity with quantity value for each of those sellers lines. So what happens here? We start write transaction on this step, and now another subscriber is executed. Yeah, and that's obvious now that when we want to run this page, write transaction is already executed and it is not possible to run it. So in general, if we check Microsoft documentation, they say that when write transaction is started, it is not possible to execute reports, pages, XML ports, or code units using run or run model in case if return value is expected. So, and here we also expect return value. So this is a limitation which does not allow us to continue the transaction. So we have to avoid it. We get this error here. And we have a problem. Yeah, so we have to understand what we can do. Usually when I work with different logic, I try to understand how standard logic works. So if you take this release sellers document code unit and check what it does, so there is some data processing model in it. So first of all, some checks are done. So it checks status, or it checks some customers on sellers header and so on, checks lines here. But if we dive into details here, we can see that no write transaction is executed on these check functions. If we investigate it a little bit deeper, so we can see that write transaction is started here, or probably it can be started here because modify is executed here. Maybe we can also find something important in this code unit, which can be probably executed in some cases earlier than this modify or this modify. So probably some write transaction can be here. We have to find out where it can be the place when it starts. Yeah, we can see that we have modify here. So the main idea here is to understand what is the point, the earliest point when write transaction is started. And that can be the place after which we can, or before this place, we can put our custom write transactions to let us avoid this error, just to make it more clear. So what we have in standard, we have this general approach. Desired data processing model in standard Microsoft objects has the following view. So we have to execute checks first of all, so check some parameters, data, and so on, to check some preconditions, also to get some extra parameters from user if it is needed. So first of all, we do everything to make our parameters be fulfilled. And once all the parameters are okay, writing transaction starts. And after this, there is minimum of different checks and so on. That's how it works in general. But what we have in our case? In our case, we have some specific logic on before release. So first of all, it executes some checks for original quantity, and then it updates original quantity on sellers line. Then we have again checks for item box and then item box sellers line is immediately created. So write transaction is immediately started here, and only after that standard checks are executed, and then standard write transaction takes its place. Main idea here is to make all checks be executed at the very beginning, and all the write transaction things to be executed after all checks were executed. So we have to refactor or to reorganize our code to let all the checks, all the dialogues and so on be executed at the very beginning of the process before write transaction is started, and all write transaction things should be executed afterwards. We have to refactor our code this way to avoid the error. Okay, let's try to do it again. If we run this release process, we go into our first event, first custom event, this one, which is not okay for us. It is triggered too earlier, so we have to find out the place, trigger it after our item box dialog is run. Again, I go back into here. So now it is triggered here, but we know that our item box dialog is also triggered here. So to avoid the write transaction be started before our item box dialog, I have to relocate this part of logic for original quantity updates somewhere below. So we know that write transaction is started here. So probably it is good idea to place our code once the transaction was started here, or even a little bit below. So I would say that we have to choose some event. Let's try, for example, this one on before modify sellers doc. I think this one will work for us. Okay, so maybe sellers lines should be, yeah, if we check this code unit, there is some discount processed here, so maybe it is important since the original quantity is updated on the sellers lines, maybe it is important to send sellers line which is updated into here. So maybe better event for these purposes is this one. I will use this one. Original quantity. Okay, I'll stop this debugging process. Sellers header, sellers line here, preview mode is handled, lines were modified. Yeah, and we can see lines were modified. That's also important for us because it detects if lines were modified. So I comment this original code, comment it out, and we can reorganize this code a little bit in case if lines were modified. Okay, how we can do it? Lines were modified. I will put it as parameter here. I will do it this way. So I think this boolean is important for code which executed in release sellers document code unit. Below. So yeah, we handle this, and we can add this one, lines were modified, also here. So we do it like this. Okay, let's publish and check what happens. So we check our sellers order again. And try to release it. And what we can see now, that indeed it, yeah, let's put some quantity, 6 for example, okay. And we can see that indeed original quantity was populated, that's fine. And box item was added, and the order is released. So in general, what we can see that the fix worked for us, because we started our write transaction after item box dialog was executed. So we did some change, but it can be not enough. So what can happen? What could happen more in our logic? So for example, what we have now. Now we have that our dialog is triggered here, and immediately write transaction is triggered here. After box number, box quantity is entered by user, sellers line is created immediately. That happens here. So we run this dialog, then we get this quantity, and create box sellers line is executed, and sellers line is created immediately. So write transaction still starts here. And in case if you have some other run modal for on other event, or even on the same event, we will still get the error for that other page run model or code unit run model or anything else. So let's try to do it. If I still use this event on before release, but I just do, for example, page run model, page customer list, for example, any kind of page. So we added this code on before release. I would expect now that this on before release logic is executed first, and my new logic is executed after that, just to be sure. Yeah, we can see that order of execution events subscribed on the same event can be different. So let's use this event. So here we run our box item dialog, and here we run customer list run model. Let's see. We can remove all extra parameters, does not matter. So I'm trying to reproduce transaction error even after we fixed something. So let's see. Yeah, we can see this quantity is entered here. So not once I click on OK, seller's line should be created on the background, and then another event is executed, and subscriber on that event will trigger our custom list page, and we should get the error on that. Yeah, indeed. So it is sometimes it is not enough just to reorganize code this way. So we can just, we can put the code which is on the very beginning and move it somewhere below to the place where standard write transaction takes its place, but it can be not enough, because here we have situation when we show this dialog in the very beginning of the release process and we start transaction immediately. So in that case, I would suggest to divide this logic into two pieces. So first of all, before write transaction is started, we should execute this part of logic, and create boxes part should be executed somewhere below. So I would say that still on before release we just show our page, but create box sales line function should be executed somewhere in the same place when we handle our original quantity. Let's do it in the same place for this particular case and check what happens. So we run dialog here, but create sales line here. It will be closer to standard write transaction, and it will be much more safe because all important checks were done till this event. So it will help us to avoid risks. Okay, how will I do it? So I will remove this function from here. We have to rename it to be named properly. Get boxes quantity for sales line, for box sales line. Okay, and we get it here. How can, so our task here is to get this value, and it works now, but we have to put it into here somehow. So since we use another event, we use which one? I will copy from this page. I will use the same event here on before calc, so this event goes below, and on this event I will use this function. So we have to put here sales header, and it expects quantity, but we don't have this quantity on this event here. We don't have it in the parameters and so on. So we have to transfer this quantity somehow from this point into this point. Check it here. It will be from this point into this point. So I will use the same approach as I used in my previous video, and I will do the following. So I will create table extension for sales header, new sales header, demo item boxes quantity. It will be decimal, and I will use the same approach with global procedures. Procedure set demo item boxes quantity. Yeah, okay, let it be so. And get. Okay, you can see that I could do it without writing code, so let's check it. demo boxes quantity set. Okay, we have input parameters. This one is okay. And this one is also okay. Get, but I would rename it because I want my affix to go first. That's better. Here, I will run this function on before release. My task is to set the quantity of boxes. First of all, I will change this sales header to be variable here, and I will do one line of code here. Demo set boxes quantity. So I just set it into here. Then this header goes back to release code unit. And once I am on this place, I will just do demo get. Yeah. And that should work. So what we have now, we have still this customer list page, which does not allow us to continue transaction. But now I divided the logic of boxes into two pieces. So first piece is to execute checks and store boxes quantity, but without triggering any write transactions. But second piece is actually write transaction for this particular part of logic. Let's see if it works. I take the same sales order is here. We can restore these quantities. Okay, so let's run and see if everything is executed the way we want. Release. So we get this dialog, put 9 into here. Okay, now we have customers list, which is okay. We close it and we see that it is released and everything is executed the way we would like. Box item was created, original quantities were populated here. We could manage to fix write transaction issues this way. To summarize, we have to satisfy this general approach. Checks, dialogues, preconditions go first. Write transaction things, modifying data goes afterwards. In that case, we have no problems. One more thing, I saw in some documentation there was a trick to fix the problem using this approach, commit. This can look like a quick fix, but it can cause a lot of problems in general. If you do it in a posting process or any other important process, it can cause you a lot of problems with corrupted data and inconsistent data in the database. So usage of commit should be agreed with a technical architect, with functional responsible person. This is very important to be wise when put commit. Please don't use commits just for quick fixes, because you can get a lot of problems. That's it. Hopefully it was useful for you. Please share your knowledge. If you have some other ideas how to handle these write transaction errors, please let me know in comments. Would be nice if you could share something interesting. And thank you. Bye bye.